Really? Really? This is how you end a season, huh? Really? All I can say is there better be a season freaking two because you left every single plot point open. There was not a satisfying ending on any of the story points that you had set up, and you ended right there? Why in the world did you think that was a good idea? You stupid, overabundant waste of time. You are just a glorified commercial for the bloody manga. How in the world did anyone let this go by? I swear if I get my hands on these people. Sorry about that, folks. We're having technical issues here. Yeah, we're having to get 66 medication now. Please stand by. Okay, I'm better now. I'm better. Okay, exactly how in the world did we get to this point? Well, let's start at the beginning of the story, shall we? With the plot. We start off our story in a crime ridden city, and we kind of stay there, except for a couple of flashbacks of the entire story. And this city is controlled by four families. The leaders of said families are known as the Four Fathers, despite the fact that two of them are women, but I guess they didn't want to go with something like the Four Parents because that wouldn't sound as cool. The city is a pretty ordinary town full of drugs and guns and all that sort of stuff, though I would say it's not quite as gritty as some of the other gangster type animes, such as Black Lagoon and the like, but it gets the point across fairly well. The city has what is known as tags. Tags are people that are born with special powers. They go into a backstory of why they have special powers and all that, but it's not really that important for right now. Just know that they're people that are born with extraordinary powers, but the drawback is they live very short lives, usually about in their 30s they die. And there's also the fact that if they don't take a certain type of drug, then they basically go into like a coma state or something like that. It's a weird setup, but the basic point is most of the tags live in the city because the city is where you can get the drug fairly cheap. But in a city with so much going on, there must always be jobs that need to be done. Some legit jobs like delivering packages, some jobs that require more forceful nature. But whatever the job and whatever the case, there is always one group of people that can do it for you, and they are called the handymen. There are three members of the Handyman in total. The first one is Warrant. He has a special ability to be able to remember everything he has ever seen, basically a photographic memory. He's also fairly skilled in guns and hand-to-hand combat. He is not the equal of a tag by any means, but he certainly knows how to get the job done. There's also the fact that he is sort of the guy who I won't say is the leader of the team, but he is the most straightforward and takes care of the business. Also, there's the fact that he is, well, for lack of a better word, a male prostitute on the side from his regular job. You can argue back and forth if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but the fact that they weren't afraid to actually show that this is a thing that happens in real life is something that I appreciate, showing that, yes, indeed, men do also do that sort of job too. It's not just relegated to women. Next up is Nick. He actually is a tag and one of the most powerful tags there is, an A0. He does have two handicaps though. One is a literal handicap in that he can't hear, and he understands people through sign language and through reading their lips. The second thing is that he abuses drugs to be able to not feel pain when he fights, and so he goes way past what his limits should be. And that can also end up destroying his body, both through reckless fighting and also through the drug just being very horrible on the body after it's taken. Next up is Alex. She was a prostitute, but then became the secretary of the handyman. Her job is pretty much being the lens for the audience. Anytime something has to be explained, it's explained to her, and by proxy, it is explained to the audience. She is the lens that people see the show through. And as that job, she works as it fairly well. But she also has a very tragic backstory and a very tragic present story as well. The entire thing of her backstory is dark and twisted and complicated, and I don't want to get into it. It's major spoilers, as it were. But let's just say it did make me cry. A few of the things I think they handled very well, and I give them much credit for handling these situations well, is the topics of both the deaf people, within the case of Nick, and how he communicates with others, and showing that really it's not that big a deal, that people can still live a perfectly happy life even if they are deaf. They also handle things like abusive relationships and prostitution and drug abuse very well, and I think, with a lot of respect to the material in question. That being said, it's not all good. The biggest problem this show has is, of course, the fact that it's only 12 episodes. They open so many plot lines, so many ways the story can go, and they answer absolutely none of them. Not one. By the end of the story, there are characters that may or may not be dead, characters that are kidnapped, wars that are about to be started, a whole big bunch of things that are going down, and they just end it. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw it, but they actually just ended it. I have no idea if there is a season 2 or what. I hope there is, I truly do, and I hope it's not just a read the manga type thing. But I have not felt this betrayed by an anime since Dead Man Wonderland. In fact, I actually feel more betrayed by this because this show was actually really good pretty much all the way through, except for the ending where you don't get any conclusion to the story. Really, it just comes down to the fact that I expected better. With all that said, I have to say that this show only gets about 2 stars out of 5, which is sad because I wanted to give it 5 stars. I really did. Watching it all the way through, I wanted to give this show 5 stars. But when you leave an ending like that, it cannot stand. I'm sorry. So a measly little chunk of points that don't really matter because the ending destroyed it. If they ever make a second season, then maybe I will judge that accordingly and make a second video to review that. But as it stands right now, it ain't worth much. And I wouldn't suggest anyone watch it until they have a furtheration of the story, because if you do, you're just going to be wasting your time. I'm the Anime Viewer 66. Thank you and good night.